Welcome everyone. This is a series of beginner's guide for Path of Exile. This is going to be the first guide. We're going to introduce what is Path of Exile and what are the unique features, why should you get into it, and what might you find good about the game. So get into the game very quickly. This is an action RPG game. If you've heard of Diablo, if you've heard of the other similar games out there, I think Diablo is the most popular one, and previously we had Diablo 3. It's very similar to Diablo 3 and uses the gameplay style with a merge of Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. You can see I'm running around. I have HP bar and mana bar on both sides, which is very reminiscent of Diablo 2. So to get into the game, you click around, you move around, you can use your potions on the side, you have the skill. You can also change skills, and there's a variety of job class you can change into. So similar to Diablo, you start the game by selecting a class. So we can get into that. Let's have a look at the class we can select. So let's go to the login screen. Now we log in. So when you go to the create character, what you will be presented, you're presented with standard league, which means you'll be playing the game on the league, which is not going to change. This league is the standard league, and it doesn't have any special league attributes, but you will have the things that's carried on for the new league. If you experienced with the league or season settings with action RPG games, this is to keep the game fresh. Every league starts every 3 months with Path of Exile. That means everyone starts from scratch, so you don't have to worry about people being overpowered or just being more, more itemized or more richer. So every league, every 3 months, Path of Exile starts new with a new league, with new features, new content, and new items. So for this one is called Metamorph. You can also play in the hardcore league. What that means is you die once, the character becomes a standard character, which is alright, because with the hardcore, you die once, pretty much you're no longer in the hardcore league. It's called hardcore because if you die, you won't make it back. So that is very important, and you try to not die. But in the normal league, it's okay. At the start, you're presented with 4 different range of characters, and those characters, although they have the unique, pathways and everything, is actually pretty interesting. So we can start with any of the characters, but we can go with one we already picked, and I'll show you guys the pathway of a character. Why do I say, although there's 7 of them, I'm not going deeper into them, is because I recommend for new players to follow somewhat of a guide with the game, because in the latest stage of the game, which is very enjoyable, but it's very punishing for new players without the knowledge of where to go. Why is that? As an action RPG game, this game with Path of Exile actually have a very overwhelming and somewhat intimidating pathway of a skill tree. You start with your 7 characters and start at one of those branches. Here I start with a witch, and you can start with Marauder, you can start with Archer, lots of ones to start. There's actually 7 of them to start. You can actually pathway yourself into any of the builds. You can go into the warrior build here, you can go into the mages, you can go with archers, you can path yourself everywhere you want, as long as you have the skill points, which can be resetted of course with the cost of currency, and you can build yourself into a variety of characters. This is the biggest difference I think compared to Diablo and any other RPG games. It's that the flexibility and the customization for the game is massive. Let me give you a few examples of what's possible with this one. Over here, you can see my HP is about 6,000, which is pretty okay, like somewhat average in the endgame. But here there's a talent that gives you immunity to chaos damage, but turns your HP to 1. How do you build around it? Is you get lots of shield, or you can even stay on 1 HP for an immortal player. Yes, you can have defense of 100% of everything. You're immortal with almost every damage in the game, but you don't do much damage. There's also one there that leeches life into lich shield, so you can combine those two. You have lots of shield. This one gives you shield healing, and when an enemy hits you, your shield kind of comes back if you attack them with damage. There's a lot of varieties you can go from. There's ones that use mana to block damage for you. There's lots of the good mage ones, lots of the Marauder ones, lots of a variety to go for, and you have enough skill points by the end game to almost path into everywhere you want. There's also lots of other features which I want to share with you guys, but maybe a little too much for a beginner's guide. So in the introduction of the game, you can dual wield. So here you can wield 2 single hand, you can wear armors, you can wear a variety of things. But what are those slots you're seeing here? Those are actually the second unique feature of the game. And over here you can see that I have you have the gems, which are red, blue, and also green. Those gems represent different skills. This is a massive sell point, and a massive difference between this game and other games is that you actually create your own skills. You customize the skills to your liking. You can buff the skills with support skills. You can do anything. Here, let me show you what I look like. I am a necromancer summoner, so I summon skeletons, I summon monsters, and and I also do a lot of things. So I can raise dead, I can summon my skeletons, I can summon zombies, I can do a lot of things. I can also explode corpse. There's a lot of things. There I go, I summon a skeleton, I can explode the corpse. So those skills, they don't come right away at the start of the game. As you go progress in the campaign, you'll be rewarded with different skill gems, which will cover on a pretty focused guide. Here is a basic one. So you'll be rewarded with a choice of skill gems. You can pick up the skills. At the start, I was like, hey, I want to go summoner. So I pick up the zombies, and I went with the raise zombie. If you look at this skill, it shows you're going to raise the zombie from the corpse. It actually stays indefinitely until the zombie dies. 7 maximum zombie for me right now. And what I did was, you can pick up other support gems to make you zombie a tank, a DPS, or a super fire zombie. So it's up to you how you build a zombie, and those items that you can see with enough skill slots can make you a super monster. Here I made myself a super strong skeleton with a combination of a lot of supportive skill gems that makes the skeleton stronger. This one gives skeletons more physical damage, this one gives more melee damage, this one gives minion damage with all the summoners are called minions, and this one gives them single target damage with looters, and lastly this one gives them aggression and also the units will attack faster. So right away you can notice that there's always combination of things that's imaginable or even like ridiculously out of the touch with players. Some players goes full summoners, some players goes with 1 HP, some players goes with summoning fire magic, some players becomes archer that summons little target bots. There's so many choice of builds here, and into the late game you also have a choice of job changing into one of the 3 builds, or one of the specializations. Here I job change into a necromancer. So on top of the 7 class we have, we also have 3 job change for each of the class. Those are 31 variations plus the skill tree plus the talent tree plus also the spells. So you might say, hey, why do you say it's very versatile? So here I also have a shield slam. So I'm like a warrior. I can slam shield, I can slam into monsters, I can bash them to death. And other times I can provide auras, I can curse the enemy. There's a combination we can go. I have different summoners of units for different purpose. So the next part of beginner's guide is where do you go from here for the game, and why would you like this game? For me personally, I'm a big fan of hack and slash with Diablo, and the best features of this game is that not only you have the loot like mechanics with Diablo, which you get good items, you are rewarded with lots of loot, and the planning really favors you. Excuse me guys, coughing a little bit. So like all the popular action RPG games, you can pick up items, and depending on the size of them, they take different slots in your inventory, and you have limited inventory, so you do have to go back with the teleportation scroll to pretty much store up your items. Here I'm coming back to town, I'm going to go to my little inventory with stash. Here I can store the items in there. And this type of games was really nice for me, and I like this style, which I just go into monsters, I dive into them, I fight them. But what I didn't like is the fact the game gets repetitive and there's only one good build, because late game items or end game items are fixed. For this game, which I forgot to cover, is for this game there's another big feature, which some people like it, some people really hated it, but eventually you get used to it. So the next highlight feature for this is this game doesn't have gold. Most action RPG games have gold, which is the currency of internet exchange. You can use gold to buy money, you can use gold is your money. You can use gold to buy items, you can use gold to buy potions for NPC, you can use gold to do a lot of things. But for Path of Exile, you don't actually have gold. What you do is you exchange valuable resources with other players. And you can also start up your own shop. Here, the common resource for Path of Exile in the endgame is called Chaos Orb. Those orbs are actually unique items that's quite rare in the game, which is not too terribly rare, you can still find them, but they're rare enough to make them valuable. So instead of using gold as a currency, you'll be exchanging most of your items which are worth some value into the Chaos Orb or into other currencies. All of those currencies have a special purpose. For example, this Exalted Orb is a very valuable currency, which is the endgame currency. This one gives a random attribute or modifier to an item that's rare, and this makes the item even stronger. And there's a lot of things here. We can give a different number of sockets on the item. Here we can relink the items, because if sockets are linked, the skills link together. And here the Chaos Orb gives a rare item a new modifier. So there's so many items of currency that's interchangeable between the players, and all of them serve a purpose. What the game mechanics allows you to do is, you'll be using those resources just as resource. Here I'll be upgrading my map quality to get stronger maps. Oh yes, you can make maps. Here for example I have a map. I can use my currency, I make it quality 20%, that means I get 20% more items and 20% stronger enemy. I can make this, which is a normal map, into a rare map, which is a golden map. Now I get 97% more drop rates with item quality, but the monsters are stronger because they reduce my resistance, they have increased damage. I can also make this map even stronger using different resources. Here I made it undefined and corrupted. So all the resources, you can interact with maps, you can interact with monsters, you can do a lot of things. The trade exchange is because you only have currencies. Some players might find it harder to tell what is a good currency, what is not, which will focus on special guide. Overall, all you have to know is having the currency is really helpful to keep a few of the rare ones. I do recommend downloading pretty much a filter for the game if you plan to get deep into the game. But if you're here for the story, I have a good news as well. So lots of NPCs you speak to actually have a few lines.
I belong to no one but the spirit. I have no need for
There you go. So most of NPCs also have dialogues. This was not right at the start of the game, but now most of the campaigns are pretty dialogued. And those are pretty good campaign and pretty good storyline as well, if you're into storylines. And to go deeper, if you are here for the story, the story is actually great. I really like the story because you start with Act 1 and the story flows on to Act 3, 4, 5 into Part 2 up to Act 10. So there's 10 acts of stories which are not repeated. In most other games like Diablo, you get repeated stories because you just go with normal mode to hard mode to hell mode to inferno mode, and that gets repeated like 4 times. That was what I was finding a little grind for the game, and here I'm always facing a new story. The maps may be the similar one, but the story is different, and the endgame is very fascinating. So we did cover a few things, and in case you guys are wondering, a few things you want me to clear up, I'll be focusing each of the parts on a special guide. This one's just introduce the game a little bit. And before we go, let me show you guys how we find monsters. I'll go find a place with lots of monsters. Those monsters are low level. So as for my class, I can summon lots of dudes, and I summon lots of skeletons. I can get my little music on. Here I did took down the music a little bit, so you can hear the music. So I shield charge into enemies, and also my skeletons will help me fight those enemies. We'll be smashing them. This game gets very nice because if you're strong enough, you just push over enemies. But as you go further, there's always a map that's stronger than you, so you have to be more conservative, you have to fight them slowly, and there's lots of random events in the world. Here we found a random event, and this random event is basically a boost monster. This monster hides under the ground and he'll be fighting us and he'll be running away. Each time we defeat him, he'll be running away further. So notice there's a green dot on the map. I'll be chasing him, and I'll try to chase him, and he'll come out, he'll fight us, then he keeps running. By the time you kill him, what's going to happen is he's going to drop a special chest, and some of them contain special gems for your skill gems and passives. So let me find the chest. Where did he go? There you go. So this is the Abyssal Trove. You click onto it, you will drop some special items, and those are pretty nice and sometimes even rare. So lots of mechanics in the game and lots of endgame content. I don't want to cover too much of the endgame for now. We'll be having a special guide focused on that as well. Again, thank you guys for watching this introduction to Path of Exile. I did finish the endgame for this league on the normal mode, so I've been through the story, I've been through a bit of the endgame, so I should be able to cover almost everything for the game on an intermediate and basic level for you guys. I'm still learning the game. Once we get to the end game, even more like advanced mastery level, I'll share the insights of how to make more currency, how to make a spell build. I do know a few builds now, but not not knowledge enough to share massive amount of builds for you guys. So to stay tuned for this channel for more guides on Path of Exile. Thank you guys.